This video is sponsored by Moft. Springtime. In New York, the sidewalk trees are blooming. The school children are screeching. And above it all, the skyscraping landmarks maintain their silent watch. I would say it's the perfect place for mobile photography, but honestly, I've seen a lot of this city through the lenses of my various review devices, and so, by extension, have you. So when two of the world's premier photo-focused phones landed on my Brooklyn review desk earlier this year, I wanted to wait for a chance to profile them properly. Because these are camera phones with a capital C, with over-the-top optics, amped up by try-hard software, each of them leveraging the legacy of a more than century-old camera maker to burnish their much younger credentials. And when another nearly 200-year-old company offered to bring me to Austin, Texas to make the case that John Deere is just as much technology company as agricultural equipment wholesaler, well, I knew right away that that opportunity was not one I wanted to pass me by. So I traded in my Hornblower Ferry for a Delta A320, hid my hairdo beneath a farmer hat, and I used those phones to shoot the ever-loving hell out of some self-driving tractors.
Nothing runs like a me.
I'm Michael Fisher, and this is Austin, Texas, through the eyes of the Oppo Find X6 Pro and Xiaomi 13 Pro, on a Mr. Mobile road trip review.
Before we get started, I want to make it clear that this is not a comparison. Each of these phones has its own individual strengths, and this time around I just thought it would be more fun to play to those strengths, rather than putting them head-to-head in order to help viewers reach a buying decision about phones that aren't even available in the US anyway.
That's not to say I don't have a favorite between them. See, I tend to think that form is at least as important as function if you're going to call something a camera phone in 2023. And Oppo's Find X6 Pro definitely got that memo. Dyed a warm khaki, rarely seen in mobile, the faux leather backplate is soft, often warm to the touch, and decidedly more durable than the glass we see on almost every other phone. The top quarter is glass, but at least it's done up to look like the metal I wish it was. And straddling the border between materials is an aluminum camera module. No, a camera crater. No, a camera mesa that can't help but put me in mind of Nokia's legendary Lumia 1020 of a decade ago. Oppo tips its hat to the world of DSLR cameras with the reeded edge and orange alignment dot. And, of course, anyone with eyes can see the Hasselblad wordmark, proudly advertising the color science collaboration that makes portraits such a pleasure to shoot on this device. You'll see them shortly. Flip the Oppo over, and it's just another big slab phone. Tough to distinguish from the Xiaomi 13 Pro alongside. And while Xiaomi is no stranger to aspirational envelope-pushing designs, check out its Ultra series, the 13 Pro seems aimed at those who like their phones more subtle. While the main shooter uses the same huge 1-inch sensor found in the Oppo, Sony's 50-megapixel IMX989, Xiaomi frames it within a much smaller camera cuboid, placed off-center like so many other wobbly phones, sprouting from a sea of ceramic that's appealing in its weighty way, but also predictably prone to prints. Fingerprints, that is. Honestly, I find it to be a pretty generic design. To me, the most exciting thing about it is the leather carrying pouch that came with my review unit, which I can't quite pull off, I admit it.
Kind of pouch space you want in a late model car.
Oh, and let's not forget the Leica wordmark stamped above the flash. Over the past 5 years, I've covered that company's collaborations with phone makers from Huawei to Xiaomi to Sharp, and the byproduct of Leica's relatively long tenure in mobile is, in my opinion, the deepest grab bag of photographic fun to be had on a phone. Now, does your phone need a Leica or Hasselblad brand to snap great shots? Obviously not. I've said that a lot before. And just look to my frequent partner in content crime, David Kogan of The Unlocker, who shot the same trip you're about to see on a plain Jane Galaxy S23 Plus from Samsung, and he got some great stuff. I'll link his real-world test in the description when it goes live. But what these camera phones do, or at least do for me, is add some intention to the photos I take. When I use these, I'm not just shooting from the hip. I'm looking for an opportunity to use Hasselblad's super-wide X-Pan mode. Whether that's to capture the scale of a 130-foot-wide sprayer in a field, or to evoke the sense of potential hanging in the bar alongside a vacant piano. I'm trying to find a dynamic atmosphere for Leica's film emulation modes so I can develop all those hidden colors and dimensions that live between the smoke and the sausage at a place like the Salt Lick Barbecue. I know, we're already at peak fake photographer navel-gazing, but if you're going to buy a phone like this, you've got to be open to the possibility that it turns you into a somewhat pretentious digital picture dilettante. And even if you only vaguely know what you're doing, well, there's still a lot of pleasure in that. Especially when the phones surprise you. That surprise is up next, but since, let's be real, you're probably not buying a phone like this, today's sponsor is an old friend with some new accessories that you probably can use.
As many of you know, I don't daily drive an iPhone, but if YouTube analytics are to be believed, a great many of you do. So this new accessory from my sponsor Moft is just for you.
I've been using Moft products for years to make my laptops, tablets, and phones more comfortable to use. And those adhesive stands are still available, but now that MagSafe is a thing, Moft has gotten a lot more capable with the SnapStand Power Set. This is more than just a stand. It's a portable charger and a 3-card wallet, too, done up in one of 4 faux leather colors to match your personal style. And my favorite part is you don't need to go all or nothing, because the stackable design means you can use the stand without the battery, or the battery without the phone. Moft even brought MagSafe to the power cord, letting you juice up your phone and battery with a magnetic cable complete with pass-through and a pretty cool blue LED ring light. Boost your juice and your productivity. Hit the link in the description to get your SnapStand Power Set. And thanks to Moft for sponsoring this video. That surprise I mentioned before? Well, I've always hated portrait photos on phones, so imagine my delight when I shot a couple portraits of friends down in Austin and ended up loving what the phone was producing so much that I just didn't stop for 3 days. Now, I say I loved what the phone was producing, singular, because it really is the Oppo that deserves the bulk of credit for changing my mind about portraits. And no, hardcore photographers, you don't need to comment, but I know you will. Of course, this isn't going to replicate what you can do with your 3-pound DSLR. I just carry my camera. Why do I need a... Yep, we get it. Thank you. And yes, I said as recently as my S23 Ultra review that even Samsung can pull proper portraits in the right conditions. But what struck me about Oppo was just how how easy it was to snap a quick portrait in almost any condition. Lots of light or not so much, up close or halfway across the room. Here I will quickly compare the phones. Xiaomi's 13 Pro is very specific about the Leica lenses it's trying to emulate, and it's fun to play with those focal lengths and virtual film stocks, no doubt. But those colors sometimes play havoc with skin tones, and by the time you get all the way up to the 90mm soft focus, it's so shallow that I found it only marginally useful. In my experience, Oppo's Find X6 Pro has better subject separation, it's more tenacious when it comes to preserving colors, and again, it's just easier. I got so confident with the Oppo that on a whim, I offered to shoot some of the John Deere employees whose work we were in Austin to see. I was very happy with the results. Oppo's investment in its secondary cameras, which is to say the ultra-wide and especially the periscope telephoto, really paid off here. That's where the Xiaomi suffers a bit by comparison.
Quick note, I have to give Xiaomi credit, and honestly thanks, for adding a teleprompter mode to its selfie camera. Those of us who talk to our phones for a living really appreciate it. It's just a shame that that selfie camera is limited to Full HD and is fixed focus. Oppo's is Full HD too, but at least it has autofocus.
Okay, enough of the comparison I said I wouldn't do. Enjoy these captures from both phones, from New York to Texas, and even a few stragglers from Barcelona, in Xiaomi's case, before I take us home.
So it's easy enough to document the visual aspects of this beautiful hotel, the proper hotel in Austin. But what I can't capture with either of these phones is the olfactory aspect. They are literally pumping scented air into the public spaces of this hotel. Not perfume, not a rose petal kind of smell like you might find in Vegas, but a mesquite type bonfire smell, as though someone is having a cookout on the plains not far away. It smells like smoke. Like every time I've walked out of my room, I'm like, is there a fire in here? And now it smells like cowhide in here. This is a very olfactory hotel. I'm into it.
Have you seen the worst of me?
Sorry, I didn't mean to be a brat.
I would leave without me. Yeah.
I'm going to.
Yeah.
You may have noticed I no longer roll my eyes as hard when I see a Hasselblad or a Leica mark on a phone, and there's a good reason for that. While those camera companies aren't as involved as the manufacturers would probably like you to think, they have finally started bringing something important to phone cameras: an attitude, an opinion. Truth be told, I don't really care what film or lenses Leica or Hasselblad are trying to emulate when you fire up their special filters, but the resulting color science and framing really is special. And in my opinion, it really does serve to inform the photos that come out the other side. Combined with these very capable, very large sensors that bring in so much light and offer such a shallow depth of field, the results can be quite striking. Is there room for improvement? Always. These damn curved screens often screw up my focus point when shooting because my palm inadvertently touches the sides. A dedicated shutter button, like Sony offers, would really help with that. And it would solve the perennial problem of China market phones not letting you double-click the power button to quick launch the camera like you can on so many other Android phones. Instead, you have to use the volume rocker on the Oppo, which is a poor substitute at best, and Xiaomi doesn't even give you that option. The result is that there's no fast and easy, one-handed way to start these cameras on these camera phones. And that's just ridiculous. I said it right at the beginning. Do you need either of these to properly preserve your precious memories? Absolutely not. That being said, I'm very glad that even in 2023, the concept of a camera phone is still alive and well. Because just like I said about that Lumia 1020 a decade ago, and only a few other phones since, each one of these makes me want to be a better photographer. And these days, it's rare for a non-folding phone to give me such an aspirational feeling. This video was made possible by review samples from Xiaomi and Oppo and filmed on location at the John Deere Tech Summit in Austin, Texas, for which John Deere provided travel, lodging, and a large amount of Texas barbecue. As always, though, none of those companies were given copy approval rights or editorial input of any kind into this content. They're seeing it for the first time right alongside you. And the lone sponsor of this video is Moft. Until next time, from Michael Fisher, thanks to The Unlocker, thanks to you for watching, and stay mobile, my friends.